The lonely wanderer, she floated through the endless dark. The stars around her were bright, but inside her ship everything felt empty. The small vessel creaked and groaned as if it was ready to die. Panels were broken. Lights blinked weakly. The air smelled of burned metal and old smoke. She had been drifting for days, maybe weeks. Time had no meaning anymore. She had no place to go. Her people were gone. Her home was destroyed. The last memory she carried was the fire in the sky, her world turning into ash, and the sound of screams fading into silence. Since then she had been running. Running from the hunters who had taken everything away. She was tired, her body was weak. Her heart was weaker. The little alien girl sat in the pilot seat, hugging her knees. Her skin was pale, her eyes large and glassy, glowing faintly in the dark cabin. She whispered words in her own language, words that meant nothing anymore because no one was left to hear them. Outside, the stars looked peaceful. But to her they looked cold. She thought, maybe this is it. Maybe I will just disappear here in this black ocean. Her ship beeped. A low warning sound. Oxygen was running out. She looked at the blinking red light, but she did not move. She did not even panic. She just stared at it as if she had already accepted the end, and then, a signal, her head jerked up. The ship's scanner flickered and showed something strange. A pulse of sound, not natural. Not random. It was a message. She leaned forward, her thin fingers trembling as she pressed the cracked screen. The words were not in her language. She did not understand. But she could see the structure of it. Organized. Intelligent. It was from a human ship. Her heart raced. Humans. She had heard of them. Wild stories carried across stars. Some called them dangerous. Some called them stubborn fighters. Others said they were strange creatures who trusted too easily. She had never met one before, her mind filled with questions. Should I answer? Should I stay hidden? If I call them, will they kill me? If I stay silent, will I die alone? The ship beeped again, reminding her of her dying oxygen. She closed her eyes. She thought of her family, of the faces she could never see again. A small tear rolled down her cheek. She whispered to herself, maybe it is better to risk than to fade away in silence. Her hand shook as she pressed the button to reply. A weak signal pulsed out into the dark. Minutes passed, her ship shook. Something huge appeared on the scanner. A massive shape gliding through space, larger than anything she had ever seen. Her breath caught in her throat. A human vessel. It moved with power, engines glowing bright, cutting through the stars like a predator of the void. For a moment she felt fear. If they wanted, they could destroy her ship in seconds. She was nothing compared to them. The comm system crackled. A voice came through. Deep, steady, unfamiliar. She could not understand the words, but she could feel something in the tone. Not anger. Not threat. Something else. Calm. Care. Curiosity. She leaned closer, eyes wide as the voice continued to speak. The sound filled her empty ship, pushing away the silence that had haunted her for so long. She tried to answer. Her voice cracked. She repeated the same word again and again, hoping they would understand. Help. 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 For a long moment there was no reply. Her chest tightened. Maybe they did not understand. Maybe they did not care. Maybe the stories were true and humans were only cruel. But then, her screen lit up with a symbol. A universal code. One word she knew. Safe. Her breath caught. She whispered it out loud as if she could not believe it. Safe. The human ship moved closer, its shadow covering her tiny vessel. She could see the shining metal, the blinking lights, the great size of it. Compared to them, she was only a drifting speck of dust. The docking signal flashed. They wanted to bring her aboard. Her hands trembled as she prepared her ship. Fear battled with hope inside her. She did not know if this was rescue or a new prison. She only knew she had no choice. She had nowhere else to go. The door of her ship hissed open. The airlock filled with a bright light. She raised her hand to shield her eyes, and then she saw him. A figure standing tall in the doorway. Broad shoulders, strong frame, wrapped in a strange suit of armor. A human. For a long moment, neither moved. She stared at him and he stared back. The silence between them was heavy, almost unbearable. Then slowly, the human lifted his hand. Open palm. A gesture she did not understand, yet somehow she felt it, not threat, not anger, but welcome. Her heart pounded. She took a step forward. For the first time since her world burned, she felt something spark inside her chest. Something small, fragile, but alive. Hope. First contact. The air between them was heavy, almost too heavy for her to breathe. She stood frozen in the airlock, staring at the strange figure before her. The human. He was taller than she had imagined. His suit of armor looked hard, sharp, and full of hidden strength. The glass visor reflected the dim lights of her broken ship. For a heartbeat she thought he might strike her down. Her people had always whispered, "Humans are dangerous. They fight like fire. They protect like steel. They never forgive," and now one stood only a few steps away. The human did not move. He held his hand out, palm open, as if waiting for her choice. Not forcing. Not rushing. Waiting. Her chest tightened. She wanted to trust. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream that at last. With trembling legs she stepped forward. The human's hand did not close. He simply nodded, a slow dip of his head as though saying, "You are safe now." The light in the airlock flickered, then steadied. She was inside their ship. The watchful eyes as the doors sealed behind her. She heard voices. Sharp, fast, and strange. The humans spoke to one another in a language she could not follow. Their tones were mixed, some curious, some suspicious, and one or two openly hostile. When she turned her head, she saw them. Several humans stood waiting in the corridor. Some wore armor like the first man. Others wore simple uniforms. Their eyes locked on her, filled with questions and doubts. One of them whispered something, and another laughed bitterly. She understood nothing of the words, but she could feel the weight of their suspicion. The captain, the tall human who had first reached out his hand, spoke sharply. His voice carried authority. The others fell silent. His eyes stayed on her, steady and firm, as if to tell her she was under his protection. Still, she felt their stares burning into her skin as she walked deeper into the human ship. That a strange new world. The corridors were wide, filled with bright lights and strange humming sounds. Machines buzzed in the walls. The air was fresh, not burned or poisoned like her own ship. Every step she took echoed, reminding her how small and fragile she was in this place. They led her to a chamber with glowing panels and soft seats. She touched one of the walls, surprised by its warmth. Everything felt alive, pulsing with energy. The captain removed his helmet. She gasped softly at a human face. His skin was pale, his hair dark, his eyes sharp but calm. He spoke again in his language, slow this time, as if trying to comfort her. His voice had no anger. She tilted her head, confused. She did not understand. She pressed her hand against her chest and said the only word she had left in any tongue they might know: "Home, gone." The room fell silent. The captain's eyes softened. He exchanged a look with another officer beside him. That one, a woman with a cold stare, shook her head in warning, but the captain only stepped closer. He pointed to himself, "Human." Then he pointed to her. He waited. She swallowed hard. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Allery." It was the first time she had spoken her name, her people's name, since the destruction. Suspicion in the air. Later, she was given food, warm, strange-smelling blocks of something soft. She sniffed it carefully. The crew watched her every move. Some leaned closer, whispering. One of them muttered something with a sharp tone. The woman officer, the one with the cold stare, finally stepped forward. She spoke directly to the captain, her voice firm. Even though the girl could not understand the words, she knew what they meant. The woman pointed at her. Then she made a cutting motion with her hand. The meaning was clear. Danger. Remove her. Now. The girl's heart pounded. She pressed herself against the seat, terrified. The captain stood in silence, listening to the officer's warnings. His jaw tightened. The crew waited, tense, ready. Then, in a single movement, he struck his fist against his chest. His voice thundered through the room, strong and unshakable. The crew froze. The officer's eyes burned with anger, but she said nothing more. The captain turned back to the girl. His voice softened again. "You are safe." She did not understand the words. But she understood the look in his eyes. For the first time, she believed him. The shadow outside. That night, as she lay in a small cabin they had given her, she could not sleep. The walls hummed with the sound of the ship. Every creak, every whisper of air, made her flinch. But it was not the humans she feared. It was something else. Her people's destroyers were still out there. She could feel it. The way a prey animal senses the predator before it strikes. Somewhere in the cold dark of space, ships were hunting. Ships that would not stop until she was captured or dead. She sat up suddenly, eyes wide. What if they followed her here? What if she had led them to the humans? Her chest tightened with guilt. She had already lost her own people. She could not bear to see these strangers destroyed because of her. And yet, the humans had brought her aboard. The captain had given her a word she had not heard in so long. Safe. Her eyes filled with tears. She did not know if she had given them hope, or doomed them all. The captain's choice. Far away on the bridge, the captain stood before the stars, hands folded behind his back. His officers whispered their doubts. The alien girl was weak, strange, and possibly dangerous. Keeping her might invite war, but the captain's mind was already set. He had seen the look in her eyes, the look of someone with nothing left, yet still fighting to survive, and he knew one thing: humans never turned away from someone who had nowhere else to go. That he gave the order. She would stay. The foreshadowing, the stars outside seemed calm. The ship glided forward in silence. The crew returned to their stations. The girl curled up in her cabin, finally closing her eyes, but far in the distance shadows moved. A fleet hunting, searching, her people's killers had found her trail, and they were coming, the stranger among them. The ship hummed like a living creature, every corridor pulsing with light, every door whispering shut like a heartbeat, and yet for her it was not home. She moved carefully, quietly through the human vessel. Every pair of eyes she passed burned into her. Some humans glared openly, their faces sharp with suspicion. Others pretended not to look, but she could feel it. The way they whispered after she walked by, the way their voices dropped lower. To them, she was not one of them. She was a shadow, a question, a possible knife hidden behind a smile. The captain had given her safety. But safety was not the same as trust, the weight of silence. They had given her a room, but not freedom. The door was not locked, not exactly, but there was always someone waiting in the hallway. Always a guard, watching. She ate alone, slept alone, and when she tried to walk beyond the assigned corridors, humans stopped her with firm hands and firmer words. She didn't understand their language, but she understood enough. Stay where we allow you. At night, she lay awake on the small bed, staring at the ceiling that hummed with power. In her dreams, the fire of her destroyed home returned, the screams, the smoke, the endless night. She woke with tears on her face and the taste of ashes on her tongue. The humans didn't see her as one of them. To them, she was still an intruder, and yet, the captain's eyes had been different. His voice, though strange, carried something no one else gave her: belief. The first lesson. One morning, the captain came himself. He entered her cabin without guards, without fear. In his hands he carried a small device, glowing softly. He placed it on the table and pointed. Language. She blinked, not understanding. He touched his chest. Human. Then he pointed at her. Allery. Her eyes widened. She nodded quickly. Allery. The captain smiled. Then he tapped the device again, speaking slowly. The machine hummed, repeating his words in a broken version of her tongue. The sound was rough, but she understood. We'll teach you. For the first time she felt something shift. A bridge. Fragile, but real. The test of fire. But not all shared the captain's vision. That evening in the dining hall, she sat at a small table, clutching a tray of food. Strange smells filled the air. Meat sizzling, bread steaming, liquid she could not name. She picked at the strange food cautiously, under the watchful eyes of the crew. A group of younger soldiers entered, laughing loudly. When they saw her, their laughter died. One of them sneered. He walked over, grabbed a piece of bread from her tray and threw it to the floor. His words were sharp, mocking. She didn't know the language, but she understood the cruelty. The others laughed, her hands trembled. She lowered her eyes, refusing to respond. She had seen this before. Bullies. Oppressors. She knew better than to fight, but before the soldier could do more, a shadow fell across the table. The captain, his voice thundered like a storm. He barked words so sharp they cut the laughter instantly. The soldier froze, face pale, before stammering an apology and retreating. The captain picked up the bread, placed it back on her tray and nodded once. His eyes met hers. Not pity. Not anger. Respect. The hall was silent. The crew looked away. But from that day forward, fewer dared to mock her. Whispers of wardies passed. She began to learn small words. Simple phrases. Enough to understand fragments of human speech. Enough to realize the crew argued about her when they thought she couldn't hear. She's a danger. She'll bring them down on us. She doesn't belong here. But she also heard others, quieter voices. She's just a child. She's alone. The captain believes in her. Hope and doubt clashed like blades in every corner of the ship. And outside, the darkness of space stirred with unseen danger. The shadow returns late one night, alarms shattered the silence. Red lights bathed the corridors. The intercom crackled with urgent voices. She stumbled from her bed, heart pounding. The walls shook as the ship turned sharply. She ran into the hall, where soldiers rushed past, armor gleaming, weapons ready. Through a window, she saw it. A shadow in the stars. A ship. Sleek, dark, and cruel. Not human. Not hers. Something worse. Her blood froze. She knew them. The hunters. The ones who had destroyed her people. They had found her. The crew's fury. The humans gathered on the bridge. She stood in the corner, trembling as officers shouted at the captain. They're following her. She led them here. She's the reason we're in danger. The woman officer with the cold eyes pointed directly at her, fury burning. Throw her out before they destroy us all. The crew erupted with anger. Hands slammed on consoles. Shouts filled the air, her chest tightened. She wanted to scream. No. I didn't bring them. They would have found me anyway. But her words failed. Her voice was too weak. Her language too broken. For a moment she thought they would truly cast her out, but then the captain slammed his fist against the console. Silence. His voice rang out, calm but iron strong. We fight. He pointed at the alien girl. His gaze left no room for doubt. She stays. The spark of trust. The crew obeyed, though their faces showed storm and fire. The alien girl stood trembling, unsure whether to cry or run. But when the captain turned to her, his expression softened that he spoke slowly, letting the device translate. You are not alone anymore. The words struck her heart like light piercing through endless dark. For the first time, she believed she was not just a stranger. She was someone they would fight for. But as the ship's guns roared to life and the hunters closed in across the stars, she knew the fight was only beginning, the foreshadowing. The humans prepared for war. Soldiers checked weapons, engineers rushed to reinforce shields, officers shouted coordinates across the bridge. And in her chest, a question burned. Would they still trust me when the real battle came? Or would I prove their fears true? As the hunters' ships drew closer, filling the stars with shadows, she knew the answer would come in fire and blood. And there was no turning back. The secret revealed. The ship trembled under the weight of enemy fire. Red lights strobed across the bridge, painting every face in warlike shadow. Alarms screamed in every corridor. The human crew shouted over one another, their voices urgent, sharp, desperate. And in the middle of it all she stood, small, silent, trembling. Her heart knew the truth before the words ever came. She knew who was hunting them. She had always known. The hunter's mark in the main screen. The enemy ship came into view. Its hull was black steel, jagged, covered in cruel scars of battle. Strange symbols glowed across its surface, sharp, angular marks that burned with a sickly green light. The sight made her knees weak. She staggered, clutching the edge of a console for support. Her breath came in sharp gasps. Those symbols, they were hers, her people's enemies. The destroyers of her home. The ones who had marked her race for extinction. But the humans didn't know. Not yet. The accusation, they're here for her. The cold-eyed officer's voice cut through the chaos. She pointed at the alien girl with fury burning in her gaze. Don't you see? They ignored us until she came aboard. She is the reason we're being hunted. The crew turned. Dozens of eyes burned into her, filled with rage, fear, suspicion. The girl opened her mouth, tried to speak, but only broken words spilled out. Not me, no. Please? Her voice cracked. One of the soldiers spat on the floor. Throw her out an airlock. Let them take what they want and leave us in peace. The crew roared with agreement. Fists slammed against metal. Weapons shifted nervously in their holsters. For a moment, the air felt ready to explode, the captain's defiance, but then the captain rose from his chair. Enough. The single word silenced the bridge. His voice carried like thunder, steady and immovable. His eyes swept across his crew, daring any of them to challenge him. She is under my protection. The officer's jaw tightened. Sir, with all respect, you are risking every life aboard this ship for a stranger. The captain's gaze was hard as steel. She is not the enemy. The ones outside are. Silence again. The crew obeyed, though anger burned in their eyes. But the girl's chest ached. For the first time someone stood for her. Against everyone. Against reason itself. And yet, she also knew the officer was right. The burden of truth. Later, in the quiet of her cabin, the captain came to her. He set the language device on the table. Who are they? He asked, slow, careful, her throat closed. Tears burned in her eyes. She shook her head. Hunters. The device hummed, translating her broken words. They kill my people. Kill my home. Follow me. Always follow. The captain's jaw tightened. His eyes searched hers, looking for lies. But she had no lies left. Only pain. They want me, she whispered. Not you. Me. The room went cold. The captain leaned back, exhaling slowly. He understood now. The humans were not targets, not yet. They were shields. They were simply in the way. The hunters would never stop until she was theirs. The crew's rebellion word spread quickly. By the next day the entire ship knew. In the dining hall, in the corridors, in the barracks. Whispers grew into shouts. Soldiers slammed fists against walls, engineers cursed in frustration, officers muttered darkly about the captain's judgment. One soldier spat the words openly, "Why should we die for her?" The cold-eyed officer gave no speeches, but her silence was louder than any protest. She was waiting. Waiting for the captain to falter. Waiting for the crew to turn. The alien girl felt the tension like a knife at her throat. Every step she took was followed by stares sharper than blades. She kept her eyes down, her hands shaking, her chest heavy with guilt. She had doomed them. The captain's choice on the bridge, another wave of enemy ships appeared on the scanners. The hunters were circling now, waiting like wolves around a wounded beast. "They want her," an officer muttered. "If we hand her over, they might let us go." The captain's eyes flared. "We will not." His voice rang across the bridge, unshakable. "Humans do not abandon the helpless. Not while I draw breath." The crew stared, torn between loyalty and fury. Some bowed their heads, unwilling but obedient. Others clenched their fists in silence. The girl watched him, her chest tight with something she could not name. Gratitude. Guilt. Fear. Hope. Why? She thought. Why would he fight for me when even my own people would not? The hunters speak. The comm system crackled. A voice filled the bridge, cold, metallic, dripping with cruelty. "Return the runaway." The words were translated automatically. The hunter's language was harsh, but their meaning was sharp as a blade. Return her, or burn with her. The bridge fell silent. Every eye turned to the captain, his jaw tightened. His hand curled into a fist, then slowly he leaned toward the comm. His voice was calm, steady, filled with iron. "She stays with us." The storm breaks. The hunters did not reply. They didn't need to, their ships moved. Weapons charged. The void lit with fire. The human vessel shuddered under the first barrage. Consoles sparked. Alarms screamed. Officers shouted coordinates, shields, counterfire. The girl clutched the railing, her body shaking as the floor trembled beneath her feet. The humans were fighting, not for themselves but for her. She could not bear it. Her people had cast her out. Her home was ash. She was nothing. And yet these humans, strangers of flesh and steel, were bleeding for her. She pressed her forehead against the cold metal of the railing, tears burning her eyes. "I cannot let them die for me," she whispered, the shadow within. As the battle raged, something stirred deep inside her. A memory. A gift. A curse. Her people had feared it. They had whispered of it in dark corners. They had called her dangerous, cursed, unworthy. But now, as human blood spilled for her sake, she knew she had only one choice. She had to use it. She had to reveal what she truly was, even if it meant the humans would never trust her again. The cliffhanger. The ship rocked violently as another blast tore through the hull. Sparks showered the bridge. Officers shouted, struggling to hold control. The captain stood firm, eyes locked on the burning stars outside. And behind him, in the shadows of the bridge, the alien girl lifted her trembling hands. Energy sparked between her fingers. Wild, dangerous, forbidden. The secret she had carried all her life was about to be unleashed. And once it was, nothing would ever be the same. The battle for trust. The bridge burned with sparks and smoke. Alarms screamed. Consoles flashed red. The ship shook as another barrage slammed into its shields. The human crew fought with every breath, shouting orders, firing weapons, patching systems. Yet for every enemy ship they struck, two more circled closer, their cannons glowing with the promise of death. And in the center of the chaos stood the alien girl, trembling, hands glowing with a power she had never dared to unleash. The forbidden gift. The energy between her fingers pulsed like lightning. Blue-white sparks arced across her palms, humming with raw force. Her breath came in short gasps, fear twisting in her chest. This was what her people had feared. This was why they had cast her aside. She had been born different. Tainted, they called it. A child carrying power meant for destruction, not for life. Her people had shunned her, exiled her, whispered curses when she walked past. And yet, now this power might be the only thing that could save the humans who had chosen to protect her. Her eyes flicked to the captain. He stood tall amid the smoke, shouting commands, his face lit by fire and determination. He didn't know what she carried inside, that he didn't know what she was about to do. The moment of choice. Another blast rocked the ship. A console exploded in flames. A soldier screamed as he was thrown to the floor. The captain barked orders, desperate. Shields failing. Hold the line. The girl clenched her fists. The energy surged hotter, louder, demanding release. If she did nothing, the humans would die. If she acted, they might live, but they would see her for what she was. And they might never look at her the same again. Her heart raced. She whispered to herself, better to be hated and alive, then loved and dead, and then she stepped forward. The unleashing the crew gasped as blue fire erupted from her hands. Lightning arced across the bridge, leaping from console to console. The lights flickered, the air itself vibrating with raw force. She raised her arms and screamed that a surge of energy burst outward, piercing through the hull into the void of space. It lashed against the enemy ships like a whip of pure light. One vessel exploded instantly, torn apart in a blaze of fire. Another spun out of control, engines flickering dead. The humans froze in awe and terror. On the main screen, enemy ships staggered under the force of her attack. The hunters howled across the comms, their voices furious. Witch? Abomination. She is ours. The girl fell to her knees, gasping, smoke rising from her skin. But her eyes glowed brighter than ever. She wasn't done. She unleashed another blast, then another, striking down enemy ships with power no human weapon could match. For the first time in the battle, the hunters retreated. The silence after the bridge fell silent. The alarms quieted. Only the faint hum of the wounded ship filled the air. The humans stared at her. Some faces were wide with awe. Others twisted with fear. Soldiers whispered to each other, voices low and sharp. One of them spat the word through clenched teeth. Monster. She flinched as if struck. Her glowing eyes dimmed. She lowered her hands, trembling, waiting for the inevitable, the same rejection she had always known. But then she heard boots against metal. The captain that he stepped forward, eyes locked on hers. For a long moment he said nothing. His face was unreadable, carved from stone. Finally, his voice cut through the silence. You saved us. The fracture. The cold-eyed officer snapped back instantly. She endangered us, she shouted. You saw it? That power? It nearly tore our systems apart. She's a weapon, Captain. A living weapon. Do you want that thing loose on our ship? The crew erupted again, divided. She saved us. She'll destroy us. She's the reason we're alive. She's the reason we were hunted in the first place. The bridge became a storm of voices, fury and fear clashing louder than the battle outside. The girl pressed herself against the floor, trembling. Her vision blurred with tears. She had given them everything, and still they saw her as a danger. Her heart whispered, it will always be the same. First my people, now the humans. No one will ever accept me. The captain stand, but then the captain raised his hand. Silence. That he looked at his crew, his voice steady, sharp, unshakable. She is not a weapon. She is not a curse. She is one of us. The officer's eyes widened in shock. Sir, enough. His tone was final, cutting like a blade. This crew fights for each other. She fought for us. She stays. His words echoed across the bridge. Some bowed their heads, reluctant but obedient. Others exchanged uneasy glances. The officer clenched her jaw but said no more. The girl stared at him, her chest heavy with emotion she could not name. That he had seen her power, and still he stood with her. The aftermath. The humans worked through the night, repairing the wounded ship. Fires were put out, systems patched, weapons reloaded. The girl helped where she could, though most avoided her touch. They eyed her glowing hands with fear, as if one spark might bring the ship down again. She didn't blame them. She feared herself too. But the captain never looked at her with fear. Only with the same steady resolve. When she collapsed from exhaustion, he ordered medics to treat her, to give her rest. When she whispered through cracked lips, why protect me? He only said, because you are worth protecting. The shadow of doubt. Yet even as hope flickered, the shadow remained. The humans had seen her power. They had felt its heat, its danger. Some might obey the captain now, but whispers spread in the dark corners of the ship. Monster, witch, abomination, and worse, the hunters had fled, but not forever. They had seen her too. They would return. And next time they would bring more. She sat alone in her cabin, staring at her trembling hands. The power still hummed beneath her skin, restless, wild, hungry. That it had saved them. But it had also cursed her. Would the humans ever truly trust her? Or would this gift, this curse, forever keep her alone? The foreshadowing in the distance, beyond the reach of the human scanners, the hunters gathered in silence. Their ships were dark, their weapons silent, their commanders watching the stars with cold, merciless eyes. She is alive, one growled. And she grows stronger. Another hissed. The humans protect her. Fools. They do not know what she truly is. The fleet turned slowly, preparing. When next we strike, no human ship will survive. A new home. The silence after battle was always the loudest. The human ship drifted through the wounded stars, its hull scarred, its engines strained. Inside, repairs echoed in every corridor, welding torches hissed, Metal clanged, voices barked orders. But beneath the noise lay something else. Tension. Not all wounds came from enemy fire. The fractured crew. The alien girl walked slowly through the passageways. Wherever she went, conversation stopped. Eyes followed her, some wary, some angry, some unreadable. When she passed a group of soldiers, one muttered just loud enough, "Which?" Another spat on the ground. She lowered her eyes, clutching her hands close to her chest. She had saved them. She had unleashed the storm inside her to protect them. And yet, to so many, she was still the reason they had been hunted at all. But not all turned away. That a young engineer, face smeared with grease, offered her a hesitant smile when she carried tools to him. Another soldier, older and weary, gave her a nod of thanks when she passed him in the mess hall. The cracks of distrust were there, but so too were sparks of something else. Something fragile. Something like acceptance. The captain's words. One evening, the captain found her sitting alone near an observation window. Stars stretched endlessly before her, silent and cold. That he sat down beside her, saying nothing at first. Just letting the silence breathe. Finally he spoke, voice steady. "You did what no one else could. You saved this ship." Her eyes shimmered. She shook her head. I am danger. Power, curse. The language device translated her broken words into rough human speech. The captain turned to her, his gaze sharp as steel. "No. You are more than that. You are alive. You chose to fight for us when you could have let us die. That matters more than what you are." Her throat tightened. Her people had never spoken to her that way. They had called her curse, mistake, shame. But this human, this strange, stubborn human, called her worth protecting. She whispered, "Why? Why risk your people, for me?" The captain's eyes returned to the stars. His voice was quiet but firm, because no one deserves to face the dark alone. The seeds of belonging. Slowly, over the next days, things began to change. She helped the engineers repair damaged conduits, her small hands nimble in places their large fingers could not reach. She carried food trays for the medics tending to the wounded. She listened when children of the crew, hidden away during the battle, shyly asked her questions. And in return she began to learn their words. Thank you. Friend. Home. The first time she spoke friend to one of the soldiers, he froze in shock. Then slowly smiled. Bit by bit, wall by wall, she began to carve a place for herself among them. The officer's shadow. But not everyone softened. The cold-eyed officer remained her harshest critic. She watched from a distance, arms folded, lips pressed tight. When others offered kindness, the officer's gaze cut like a blade point. One night, she cornered the captain in the strategy room. "She is dangerous. You saw what she can do. That kind of power will tear us apart." The captain's reply was calm but sharp. "And without that power, we'd already be dead." The officer's jaw tightened. "How long until she turns that power on us?" The captain leaned closer, voice low. "Then we teach her never to need to." The officer said no more. But her eyes, when they turned to the alien girl, were colder than the void. A flicker of peace for the first time in what felt like forever. The alien girl slept without nightmares. She dreamed not of fire and ash, but of laughter, the sound of children's voices echoing in corridors, of soldiers sharing food in the mess hall, of the captain's steady voice promising safety. When she woke, she felt something she had not dared to feel since her world had burned. Hope, the warning signs. But peace is fragile. The scanners whispered of movement in the void. Faint signals too distant to confirm. Shadows on the edge of space. The hunters had not gone. They were waiting. Watching. The captain knew. He saw the reports, read the patterns. The enemy was gathering strength, preparing for something larger that he did not tell her. Not yet. She had carried enough burden. But he felt the storm on the horizon. And he knew, when it came, it would test not just their strength, but their bond. The heart of the ship. One evening, the girl was invited to the heart of the ship, the mess hall where the crew ate together. She hesitated at the doorway, clutching the edge, afraid of the stairs. But then the captain waved her over. She walked slowly, every step heavy. The room fell quiet. Dozens of eyes turned. The captain spoke clearly, his voice firm. "She fought for us. She bled for us. She is one of us." The words hung in the air like a challenge, and then, slowly, carefully, a young soldier shifted over on the bench. He patted the seat beside him. The girl's chest tightened. She walked forward, sat down, and for the first time ate among them. The food was strange. The laughter was strange. The warmth was strange. But it felt right. For the first time she felt not like a ghost drifting through someone else's world, but like a living part of it. The whisper of the enemy far away, beyond human reach. The hunters circled. Their commanders hissed and growled over encrypted channels. She grows stronger with them. The humans teach her trust. That makes her dangerous. She must be taken back. Or destroyed. Their fleet expanded. Dark ships filled the void like a plague. The humans had won one battle. But the war was only beginning. The new home that night, the captain visited her cabin again that he found her sitting cross-legged on the bed, practicing human words with the translation device. Home, she whispered, then again louder, stronger. Home. She looked up at him, eyes shining. Here, she said, touching her chest, then the wall. Home. The captain smiled. For a moment, the weight of command, of war, of responsibility, lifted from his shoulders. Yes, he said softly. Here is home. But in the back of his mind, he knew the truth. Home would soon be under siege. That as she drifted into sleep, she whispered the word again, tasting its warmth. Home. But in the cold dark outside, the hunters prepared to strike. And when they came, they would test not just her power, but the strength of the human's belief in her. The human spirit. The word home lingered on her lips as she slept. But outside, in the cold, endless dark, death was already coming. The storm arrives. It began with whispers on the scanners. Faint shadows at first, then many. Too many. When the fleet emerged, the void lit with cruel green fire. Dozens of hunter ships spread across the stars, blotting out the light. Their hulls bristled with weapons. Their voices hissed across the comms. Return the abomination. Return her, or be erased. The human crew fell into silence. Faces paled. Even the bravest clenched their fists as fear gnawed at their hearts. The captain stood tall, his gaze never leaving the storm outside, and then he answered, She stays with us. The crew divided. The bridge erupted. Captain, we can't fight this many. They'll tear us apart. Hand her over. Some voices were loud with panic, others sharp with rage. The cold-eyed officer stepped forward, her voice clear and merciless. She is not worth the lives of this crew. One alien girl against hundreds of human souls? There is no choice here. Hand her over. All eyes turned to the captain. The girl stood at the back, shaking, her hands clenched. She wanted to scream. Do it. Give me to them. I will not see you die for me, but her voice failed. The captain's did not. His words rang like iron. Humans do not abandon family. The choice. The crew stared at him, torn. Some cursed under their breath. Others bowed their heads in shame. A few straightened, fire burning in their eyes. The officer's face twisted. Then you'll kill us all. The captain turned his gaze to her, steady and sharp. Better to die as humans than live as cowards. The bridge went silent. The officer looked away, and the girl's heart burned. No one had ever chosen her before. No one had ever called her family. The first clash. The hunters attacked. Green fire streaked across the void, slamming into the human ship. Shields flared, metal groaned, consoles exploded. The crew shouted orders, weapons roaring back. But the enemy was endless. Wave after wave closed in. The girl clutched the railing, trembling. The power in her veins screamed to be unleashed. But she hesitated. She remembered the fear in the human's eyes when she revealed it before. What if they turned on her? What if saving them meant losing them? Then she saw the captain. Calm, steady, refusing to yield even as the ship burned. And she knew. Better to be hated and alive than silent and dead. Better to be feared than to lose them forever. The awakening. She stepped forward. Her eyes glowed, brighter than stars. Sparks danced across her hands, then erupted in a storm of lightning. The crew gasped. The hunters screamed. Blue-white fire lanced through the void, tearing enemy ships apart. Hulls cracked, weapons shattered, engines went dark. One by one, hunter vessels fell beneath her fury. But this time it was different. This time she controlled it. Her power flowed not as chaos but as choice. Not as curse but as gift. She fought for them, for the humans who had given her home. The price. But power was never free. With each blast, her body weakened. Her skin burned, her muscles trembled, blood filled her mouth. She could feel herself breaking, piece by piece. The captain saw. He rushed to her side, shouting above the roar of battle. Stop. You'll kill yourself. She shook her head, tears streaming. No, better me than them. And she unleashed one final storm. The turning point. The blast lit the stars brighter than a sun. Dozens of hunter ships vanished in fire. The rest faltered, scattered, fled into the void. The battlefield fell silent. Only the human vessel remained, scarred but alive. The crew stared at her, stunned. Or replaced fear. Respect replaced suspicion. For the first time, no one whispered monster. They whispered only one word: family. The girl collapsed to her knees, her glow fading. She gasped, vision dimming. She thought she would die there, alone even after all this, but strong arms caught her. The captain that he held her tightly, his voice fierce. You are not alone. Not anymore. Her lips trembled. With her last strength she whispered one word, home. And then darkness took her. The aftermath: when she woke, she was in the med bay. Humans surrounded her. Medics, engineers, soldiers. Not watching with fear. Watching with care. The captain sat beside her bed. His eyes were tired, his body bruised, but his voice was steady. You saved us. All of us. She tried to speak, but he raised a hand. No more talk of curses. No more whispers of monsters. You are one of us now. You are home. Her chest ached. Tears filled her eyes. For the first time, they were not tears of grief, but of something warmer. Belonging. The human spirit. The crew gathered in the mess hall, the alien girl sitting among them. No one whispered against her now. No one turned away. They ate together, laughed together, lived together, and she realized, home was not a place. Home was not where she was born. Home was the people who stood beside her when all else was lost. Humans had given her that. As she looked around at their faces, scarred, weary, stubborn, but smiling, she felt it burn in her heart. The hunters had power. They had weapons. They had numbers. But humans had something greater. Spirit, and spirit could never be broken. The final words later, as the ship drifted onward into the stars, she stood at the observation window beside the captain. She whispered softly, her voice strong despite the tears. She had no place to go. The captain finished the words for her, his voice steady. But the human made her home his own. Together they watched the stars. And for the first time in her life she was not afraid of the dark.